What's up, man? Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been quite a long time.
When is the last time that I saw you? It had to have been in the Optic offices, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was like what 20 is it 2019 or 2018? 2019, right?
I think 2019. I think because
I think
2019 is like when everything was starting, the ship was sinking. So, because
yeah,
did you stay in Texas for a while?
I did. Yeah, so I stayed in Texas. I moved over from Frisco to McKinney. And I stayed in McKinney, a town over, for 2 years.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, welcome. This everybody is my good friend John, aka Virge. You might know him as one of the GOAT coaches in Rocket League. And I've known you, like we were talking about, since probably 2018 because we were in the same offices. You were part of Allegiance at the time, right?
Yep.
Now correct me if I'm wrong. You started off competing in Rocket League, right?
No, I've actually never been a player. I started off wanting to compete and putting myself around the people and networking and trying to figure out, who I could hang around to become a better player and just get more competitive. But that's when, in doing that, that's when I met Tyler, and him and I became really good friends. And they qualified for RLCS, and that's when I started, offering to help them with talking to orgs because they were getting a bunch of offers, and they're kids in high school. They never read a contract before. So then they were just like, why don't you just like say you're our manager for these orgs so that we can have the meetings with you and you can help us out. So that's where that all started. And then some of the orgs were just like, we like the way that you're taking care of the players and looking out for them. We want to bring you on as a manager, and Allegiance was one of those offers.
That's awesome, man. I gotta say, I'm a big fan of the work that you do, not only in coaching, but in content creation. Like, you cover all aspects of esports and what it means to be a true professional. So I'm a big fan of what you do and the work that you put into your craft. So I'm really honored to have you on, I guess, kind of like the inaugural 2021 season of the Ashcast. Hopefully I can actually continue with it this time.
Yeah, that means a lot coming from you. I mean, getting into Allegiance when I came in and you were the 22-time world championship coach, I was like, how do I get like this guy? So, so I really appreciate that. That means a lot, man. I've been working hard, and it's nice to have someone like you recognize that.
No, man, I think your work speaks for itself, right? Like, you're finding great success, and we'll talk more about your content and stuff a little bit later, but you're finding great success in checking all of the boxes. Like I said, you're really encompassing everything it means to be an esports professional. So hell, at this point I'm jealous, man. You're grinding the content, you're coaching a top team in a awesome tier 1 esport. It's awesome to see. I want to talk a little bit. So, like, you were trying to compete and then you saw this opportunity to start kind of managing and coaching. Was that something that had been on your mind before, or was it just kind of the door opened and you walked through it?
It's a little bit of both. When I was grinding Rocket League to be a competitive player, I started playing the game when it came out, like right when it came out, on PC. And when I was grinding it, there was nobody that was like helping you get better. Nobody was like, this is what you should do. This is what you should practice. There was just the pros, and they talked within each other, but they didn't really talk to anybody else. So you didn't really get any information on how to improve from those guys. So when I was grinding the game, I was like, man, I'm putting thousands of hours into this game. If I ever get good enough that like people want to learn from me, I want to do my part and give back, so that there's people in the position that I was in actually have somebody who's there to be like, hey, this is what you should focus on. This is where you should practice, because the game gets so much more fun the better you get at it. So yeah, I just wanted to share that joy with people. So when the opportunity presented itself, I jumped right on it, and I was like, this is the chance. This is what I've been, telling myself, that if I have a chance to give back, I'm going to take it. This is it. So let me just dive full force into it, give it 110%, and make everything I can out of it.
So when you started, were coaches really a thing for Rocket League, or you were kind of the first?
Yeah, I was kind of a meme for a long time. people were like, coaching isn't a real thing. What could you even be doing? It doesn't. You've never been a pro. So yeah, I was kind of a meme for like the first year and a half of my career. But there was this like moment where I just stopped caring, and it was when I got verified on Twitter. It sounds cheesy, But when I got the news that Allegiance was shutting down and I had to move out in 2 weeks, and then the very next day I woke up and I was verified on Twitter. So I was like, man, that's like really convenient that like as the org is shutting down, they got me verified on the way out. So I woke up, I was verified. I was like, you know what? Like this coaching thing, I'm getting memes for it. Allegiance is shutting down. I probably couldn't have made anything of it, but now that I'm verified, I'm going to take it seriously, and I'm going to be posting on Twitter coaching tips and like really show people that I take it seriously, because now I'm a verified Rocket League coach. So like nobody can really, you can meme me all you want. Like I'm a verified Rocket League coach. I just started taking it really seriously at that moment. And I was like, I was the first full-time Rocket League coach. Nobody was doing it at the time. There was other coaches, but they weren't really, they weren't doing what I was doing. I was there every day working, studying replays, strategizing, and just really trying to perfect the craft of coaching Rocket League. And so, when I started taking it seriously, that's when things really started to open up in the scene, and people were like, you know what, like coaches actually mean something. There's a place for them on a team, and there's room for, a coach coming in and giving us that extra edge that wasn't there before. That's when Allegiance shut down, I did private coaching online at a website called Gamers Ready for about a year and a half, like 6, 7, 8 hours a day. People were booking me. Wow. Every single day of the week. I couldn't stay in stock with my time. So I was just grinding coaching and trying to be the best coach I could be for the community.
Yeah, I think that's something really important that a lot of people can take away from that is, even though you're a coach and your whole job is to help others improve, it's our job to also help ourselves improve, right? You're never perfect. Nobody's ever perfect. So we can always learn. We can always grow. It's not like we're just this end all be all. What we say is right. It's as much as it's fun to think that way, but that's awesome, man. And so you transitioned pretty smoothly going from Allegiance into Dignitas, right? Or was there a long gap?
It might have looked smooth from the outside, but man, it was rough. When I got the news Allegiance was shutting down, they were like, yeah, you've got like a week and a half to move out of the apartment. Get out. I was like, are you serious? You guys moved me out here from Florida to Texas and you're giving me a week to move home? So my options were like, okay, move back home to Florida, back into my mom's house, go back to serving and bartending like I was before, and do Rocket League on the side like I was before. Or I have this opportunity with Gamers Ready. I had made it in that like week or two that I was aware that Allegiance was shutting down and I had to leave. I sold my time on Gamers Ready and I was selling a lot. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take a risk here. I have the option to take a risk and bank fully on this Gamers Ready thing working, or go back home and then play it safe. And I was like, I'm not going to push myself when I'm in my comfort zone. If I go back home and I stay with my mom, I'm going to feel like there's no pressure, there's no fire under me that's like making me move. So I was like, I asked my girlfriend, I said, are you comfortable with staying here in Texas? There's a lot of esports connections out here. So I think it would be really smart to stay near Dallas if I want to pursue this and get an apartment. And I just do this coaching thing online full time. And she's been supportive since day one. So she said, go for it. So we moved a town over and we got an apartment with my Allegiance pay stub. This was before Allegiance had publicly shut down. Mm-hmm. So the apartment complex, Connor vouched for me. He was like, yep, he works at Allegiance. Here's his employment status and all this. So I signed a lease without any income. And I was like, all right, now I got to make rent every month. So if I don't make rent this month, I'm screwed. So I was selling my time as I was working and coaching as much as I could. And I was like, if I stop selling next month, if I don't have people buying, I need to make sure that I have enough money this month to pay for next month. So I was just always like thinking ahead of like, let me get as many months of rent built up as I can and just keep grinding, keep working. And in that year, I can go back on my Gamers Ready client list, but I think I had like 302 sessions in the year.
Wow. How long are those sessions?
They ranged anywhere from an hour to 3 hours. So
you basically had, out of 365 days in a year, you had 306 hours. I'm just like, the way I'm thinking of it is like, you covered almost, if you did one a day, you covered almost an entire year. Like that's insane to me. That's a lot of private coaching.
Yeah, I was doing about anywhere from 6 to 10 hours a day of coaching.
So this was like literally a full-time job.
Absolutely. I couldn't keep up with it. My girlfriend had to stop working to come home and help me keep up with my schedule. And she started working for me and helping me. And and it was allowing us to make enough money that she didn't need the extra job. It was better off her helping me. So
Wow.
yeah, it was, I mean, it took off like heavily.
That's awesome. Now, do you still do that individual coaching?
I have the web. I'm still on the website. I still put up stock every now and then. The past couple months I haven't, because I've been so busy with the team with this new season, new format. We've got a tournament like every single week. So the past 2 months or so, I've been really grinding with Dignitas, the roster. So I haven't been putting my time up there, but I have been still doing it irregularly here and there.
So walk me through that. How does that whole process work? Because you're saying it almost like it's a inventory of time slots, and rather than like booking appointments. So walk me through that whole thing.
Yeah. So when I say I have like stock available, what I'm referring to is like I will put up a certain amount of sessions. Like I'll put up 5. Like when I was doing it full time, I would put up like 10 1-hour sessions, 5 2-hour sessions, and 3 3-hour sessions. And then I would get in contact with the people who purchased those appointments, and then we would coordinate a time. And then once I coordinated that entire round of bookings, I would go back in stock and get another round of it and put them in. So I was coaching about a schedule of like 3 to 4 weeks in advance was always booked.
Wow. So if I'm booking you, I've been playing Rocket League for about a week, kind of inconsistently, enjoying the Heat Seeker playlist. And so if I book you to grow my skills, what does it look like to or what am I paying for let's say a 2-hour slot?
So now that I'm with Dignitas, I've had far less time to do it, and so to make it worth my time, I've had to raise my price. When I started doing it, I was charging $35 an hour, but then the demand was so high I couldn't keep up with it. I raised it to $50 an hour. And then still the demand was really high, but I felt like it was a fair price point for what I offered.
Mm-hmm.
So I left it at 50 for a year. And then after a year, I gave myself a raise. I felt like I had gained enough experience to give myself a raise and demand a little bit more for what they're getting. So I raised it to 65 an hour. And then when I got picked up by Dignitas, I stopped having time to do it. It made more sense to do YouTube. It made more sense to do Twitch. It made more sense to work with a team. So in order for it to make sense for me, I now charge $100 an hour. So if I'm going to be doing it, it costs $100 an hour.
Wow. I mean, that's impressive. That's on par with what I see top League of Legends players and stuff like that charging. So, I mean, that's great.
Yeah. And I think it sounds like a lot. I've gotten a lot of backlash for the prices I charged, especially at the beginning, because I was kind of unproven for a little while. People were skeptical, and they're saying $35 an hour, that's ridiculous, this and that. But I don't think that a lot of people realize what goes into Rocket League. It's like way different than any other game. You can't bring in any skills with you. So anybody that I work with, I have to really work from the ground up and really teach them the extreme fundamentals of the game. And there's just so much depth to a session. Like I'll go over a 5-minute replay with somebody, and we'll talk for 45 minutes over half of the replay. So there's just, it's really mentally taxing, and people don't really understand what goes into it until they get one.
Mm-hmm.
But every single person who's booked a session with me, I've never had anybody unhappy. And if you go on my Gamers Ready page, I have like 150 5-star reviews. Not a single one of them is any less.
Wow. So, I mean, the credibility is there now, right? Like there's no doubts in anyone's minds. This guy's worth his $100 an hour, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
I don't think I'm going to get into Rocket League enough to warrant that. But I will say I have sold individual lessons myself. And one of the things I always kind of struggled with was the structure. Everybody's at a different level. Everybody has different knowledges of the game. And I always would start my lessons with like an interview of questions that I kind of pre-planned to figure out where they're at so that I can identify what part of the game I wanted to work on with them. For you, like you're saying, Rocket League is so beautifully simple to watch and so insanely complicated to play that I think there's this real difficulty for people to understand like the nuances, like the how to control your car during aerials and where to hit the ball. Like I watched one of your videos about hitting the ball center mass, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm an idiot. Why have I not been doing this for power shots? And I started implementing that into my own game. So talk to me, like when you set up these appointments, you've got these people, how do you gauge where they're at? Is it just purely watching the replay, or is there something else that you did to kind of help figure out where you could start and work with these individual players?
Yeah, it was a combination of those two things, among other things as well. Like I said, my girlfriend had stopped working to come work with me and help me with the scheduling because I'm extremely unorganized. Scheduling is not my strong suit at all. My girlfriend's extremely organized, so scheduling's her strong suit.
Same.
So she came home and started working for me and scheduling all these people for me and keeping up with my client base, answering questions, this and that, all through email. So the first thing I would have them do is when they would book a session, they would get an email from my business email, but from my girlfriend. She would address it, from Katie, and she would give them the rundown, like, hey, thanks so much for booking a session. Here's probably what it's going to consist of, but it all just depends on where you're at. So what we need you to do is send us your rank, send us things that you think you're good at, send us things you think that you're bad at, and then give us a little description as to why you feel like you're booking a session. And what you're looking to get out of it. And so I would read over every one of those before my session, see what rank that person's at. And the thing about Rocket League is ranks don't really tell you what somebody knows, because somebody could be a rank because they're really good at rotating, or somebody could be a rank because they're really good at mechanics. So you could say I'm diamond, but you could be diamond for completely different reasons.
Yeah.
So then they would break down what they're good at, what they're bad at. And then they would come into the session. I'd greet them. We'd, talk a little bit, kind of break the ice, because most people were really nervous coming into a session. I imagine you feel like you're going to get grilled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I always try to break the ice and let them know, like, look, I'm just a dude who likes Rocket League probably a little bit more than you. So don't worry about it. We both like Rocket League. We're both here to just talk about Rocket League. And then I would go into, depending on what rank they're at, if they were at a certain rank or above it, I would 1v1 them. And that would give me a really good feel for what it is they're capable of and what it is they're not. When you go into a 1v1, you're forced to do everything yourself around the field. You're forced to rotate right. You're forced to make the right decisions. You're forced to hit the ball correctly. You're forced to take the right shots, make the right saves. So I would go into a 1v1 with them. And then I would, once I noticed a mistake, I would start just like highlighting it by punishing it over and over and over to kind of let them realize, like, okay, that's a mistake I didn't know I had. Or it would show me how much of that mistake is, a one-time thing, or is it a consistent issue? So I would get a feel for them as a player in a one-on-one. If they were below a certain rank, then we would just jump right into replays, because a replay is going to be the best place to see somebody's tendencies. Win or loss, you're going to be playing pretty much the same both ways. It just comes down to a lot of your executions and decision making, but you tend to have the same tendencies. So we'd go over a replay, and that's where the session would really start. Like, that's my specialty, is analyzing and breaking down replays. And I had an on-screen pen that I used. I mean, I literally Googled like on-screen pen, because I thought like coaching replays wouldn't make sense unless I could draw out like play by play what you should do, what you shouldn't.
Was it Epic Pen?
It is, yeah.
Hey.
An Epic Pen came out. So I started using that, and yeah, like now like every Rocket League coach, it's a staple. Like, you have to have Epic Pen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started using that, and I would spend like literally 30, 45 minutes going over sometimes one or two situations because of how many little things go into it. And I really focused on, rather than giving that person, specifically what they need, like, okay, you need to work on aerials, so let's go over this and that. Let's practice aerial. I would break down what makes an aerial good, what makes an aerial bad, why your aerial isn't as good as it could be. I would, instead of like saying you should do this, I would give them a breakdown of the fundamentals of it, so that they could then go in and make their own decision using that skill. Because, when you have one situation in Rocket League, there's like 1,000 different outcomes, different options that you could take. So I'm never going to tell somebody, always do this option, this is always the best. It's got to come from what you see in that moment. So I would just break down the extreme fundamentals and give them a solid understanding of how to make their own decisions, and how to analyze a situation to determine which outcomes would be good and which outcomes would be bad, and how to execute on the good.
And so this is all practice for you too, right? Because now you're getting all of these reps, and 306 in a year, of practicing your own skills, analyzing replays and stuff like that. Does that carry over into how you landed your role with Dignitas?
Absolutely. That was one of the main reasons why I pursued it so heavily, is because I was like, I really enjoyed managing and coaching Allegiance, and what I didn't get out of that team was, when I was coaching, well, quote unquote, coaching them, I was friends with them before I was their coach, so I was never really taken seriously by them. So I never really got to coach them. I never really got to have a say in how things went. I just used that position as an opportunity to study the highest level of play for as long as I could. Because they wouldn't listen to what I was saying. And granted, I was this kid who had never gone pro. I was never competing at their level. And I was friends with them before. So I can imagine it's hard for them to start taking me seriously and trusting what I was saying.
Yeah.
So I didn't get that out of that team. So I was like, I really want to get back into coaching an RLCS team, because I think that if I coached a team that I wasn't friends with first, that I would come into it with this sense of, they have this sense of respect for me and what I'm saying. So I was like, if I want to be a coach in RLCS at some point, again, I don't know when it will be, maybe next season, maybe the season after, I have to make sure that I'm in practice. I'm not out of form. I'm not coming into it dry. I'm making sure that I'm improving and getting better with the scene, so that I don't go apply for that position and there's some kid who was improving while I was just sitting on my ass all day doing nothing. So I told myself, like, there's nobody taking coaching as seriously as I am. So if I keep grinding it and working on it more than anybody else and wanting it more than anybody else, then any position I apply for on any team, if I get the tryout, I'll get the job over anybody else. So yeah, that's what I did. I coached more than anybody. I was like, nobody wants to do this as bad as I do. So I'm just going to do it all day, every day for as long as I can. And it ended up being like a year and a half straight of just doing it all day, every day. I mean, I didn't see my girlfriend. I didn't see my dog. I was just, all I was doing was coaching Rocket League all day, every day.
You were committed to the grind.
Absolutely. Yeah. I tell this to anybody, like, if you want to do something and you want to be the best at it, you just have to want to do it more than anybody else.
Yeah. You got to be committed to it. And I think there's something that you can't really describe about a work ethic like that attributes to the success that, I mean, you've had both in coaching and in content creation. It's that hustle, it's that work ethic. But it's almost like an innate quality that it's not something you learn. You just kind of have to have it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I would agree.
So you did all this practice, you got all this individual coaching, and then you get a spot on Dignitas. What was the moment where they started kind of taking you seriously as a coach?
They actually posted a tweet saying that they were looking for I think the title was junior analyst or something, but it is a coach. They were looking for a coach.
Okay.
And I applied for it, and the application process was rigorous. They gave you this assignment to do. So I had to go back and watch one of their previous tournament matches against G2 Esports and break down the entire series in a readable format where they could hand it off to the players and they could read it and assess, what this person's critical thinking analysis looks like in this game. Mm-hmm. So I spent the better half of like a week or two watching this series, and it sucked because they didn't give you replay files and they weren't anywhere to download on the internet. So I just had to watch the YouTube angle, like the camera, the director camera.
Yeah.
And back then it was just an auto cam. So I couldn't really go into moments and like check angles and see if something was the way it was that I thought it was.
See if somebody was like out of position or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it was tough. I just had to use this YouTube angle, this stream angle of the broadcast and break it down. So I made sure that I did my due diligence. I watched it back like 5 times every day for a week and a half, and was just like picking out the littlest things that I could here and there. And I had this like 3 or 4 page breakdown of that series and every mistake and everything that went right, everything that went wrong, what could have been done differently. And I sent in my application, and a month went by, I didn't hear anything back. And I messaged the manager and I said, hey, look, I just wanted to reach out because I applied about a month ago for that position. I haven't seen you guys announce anybody getting it. I haven't heard anything. And so I just want to know if I should put my focus elsewhere for now. And she came back and said, look, we appreciate your application. You were a very close second, but we decided to go with this person, and it was Snasky, and he was an ex-pro. He was a retired pro. Mm-hmm. And so I actually took that as a compliment. I was like, wow, I was a close second to this guy who's been a pro and has the experience, and I'm just a nobody who's like just coaching on the side. So if I'm a close second to that, then I'm just going to keep grinding harder, because if I can be a close second to a pro and I've never played professionally, then the grind is working. Let me just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Now my goal was not to be. My goal had shifted. I was like, now I want to be a better coach than Snasky, because he took the position I wanted. So I made my background on my computer Dignitas. I made everything Dignitas related, so that every time I sat down on my computer, I was like, that logo, that's what I'm getting on today for. That's what I'm grinding for, because I will eventually be better than him and get on this team. And so I just kept grinding every day, coaching every day again, seeing that Dignitas logo. I was like, this is what I'm here for every day. And then like 6 months later, there's a tweet he tweeted out of getting picked up by Complexity as their new coach. And it was like 15 minutes after it was tweeted, I saw it. And I instantly messaged that manager. I was like, hey, I just saw Snasky left. I was wondering if you guys were looking to fill the position. I am still super interested. I've been grinding every day. Still, I've been coaching on the side. I've been keeping up in practice and making sure I'm doing what I need to do to be good enough. And they were like, all right, well, let's give him a tryout. So they gave me a 3-day tryout. And I was supposed to come in for 3 days and just show them what my coaching would be like. And after the first day, the captain, Violent Panda, was like, yeah, we want him. Like right now, we got to get him now. So it was just like such an affirmation to have gone through all that work and grinding so hard for that. And I was nervous as all hell coming into, because this was a team that had 2 world championships behind them. So I was like, I'm coming into the best of the best. These guys are some guys that I never thought I would be good enough to coach ever. So I was really nervous that they would just laugh at me. They're like, this kid doesn't know what he's talking about. But when I went into it, I just did my thing. I was like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If it's not, I'll find a better opportunity somewhere else. And yeah, they wanted me day one on a 3-day tryout. And that was just like, it was just like this big weight lifted off my shoulders. I was like, I did it. I grinded my ass off. I worked as hard as I could every day for like a year and a half. And somebody noticed. So it was really, it was like a really big moment for me to get picked up by that team.
That's crazy. They knew on day one of your 3-day tryout.
Yeah. It felt really good.
That's insane.
When I went in there and showed them everything that I did and how I broke down the game and my vision for it and what they could be doing better, they were just like, man, Snasky never did any of this. And I was like, that's exactly what I want to hear. Like, I want to hear that I am destroying his reputation as a coach compared to me. So
no offense if you watch this.
No, I love, because it was motivation. He motivated me by taking the position that I wanted. I wouldn't have grinded as hard as I did if somebody didn't come in and get it, because it reminded me that if I'm not out there doing it harder than everybody else, I won't be better than everybody else.
Makes complete sense. I love that. Was there any moment after you got declined for the first time? You said you changed everything to Dignitas. So you had that goal, you had that inspiration. Obviously, Dignitas was the goal, right? But was there ever the temptation of like, okay, well, maybe there's another team of a similar caliber or maybe slightly less of caliber that might be interested in me? Like, was there ever that kind of...
Yeah, absolutely. So I did coach a couple teams here and there on the side. That was never like a full-time position. It was always like an hourly booking with these teams and, the smaller orgs. I'd reached out to other orgs, tried to get tryouts, and the teams just weren't really, again, like respecting the fact that a coach is worth it, or at least me, because I've never been a pro.
Mm-hmm.
I like to make the joke all the time, like, oh, you got to be better than the pros to coach the pros. But it's totally not true. I'm sure you would know that better than anybody else I talk to about it, is that coaching isn't about how good you are at the game. It's about your vision for the game. And don't get me wrong, I'd like to think I'm pretty good at the game. I'm in the top, 0.01 percentile of players in terms of my ranking and stuff. And that's great. But being pro and being better than everybody in ranked is very different.
Yeah.
So, I understood that there's things that I could still learn. And so when I came onto the team, I was like, look, I want you guys to know that I am not the end all be all. I don't know it all. I'm not going to act like I know it all. I'm just here to make you guys better players. So if there's things that you think I could be doing better, tell me and I'll work on that and I'll be a better coach for it. So, there was times where I worked with other teams and stuff, and but it was never to the level of a team that was Dignitas. And I told myself if I wanted to get back into the scene, I really wanted a team that I could prove myself with. And it worked out perfectly, because when Dignitas picked me up, they were in the middle of this roster move. They were losing everything they were playing. They were first out of every single tournament. But they were all great players. So it was this amazing opportunity to showcase that I was able to turn a losing team into a world championship competing team.
Yeah, I think being able, it's almost like you get a blank canvas, right? Or almost worse than blank. Like you've got this, it's almost like renovating a home almost. Like you've got this, you see the potential, you see the opportunities, and you get the chance to be able to come in there and show that what you do matters enough to change the results. And I think like that's almost like the goal, right? Like that's hashtag goals when you are a coach is like being able to influence those results.
And prove it.
And prove that credibility. Yeah, I experienced the exact same things that you're talking about. So I'm over here like grinning because I remember when I first started coaching these guys, people thought I was, just a freeloader. People would get mad when I would tweet like, hey, like we won the pro league, and they'd be like, you didn't do anything. Why are you saying that we won? It wasn't you. It was the 4 of them. It was the 5 of them. And, I always just tried to like, all right, well, like my work will, like, I'll just stay quiet and let my work prove itself. And, the guys trust me, and that's all that matters. And even to this day, I still see it. Like, how can you say you're a good coach for these guys when you're not that good of a player? And it's like, okay, well, you're telling me that, 2 years ago, Bill Belichick could throw a football better than Tom Brady. Like that's not how that works, Chief. Like,
that's been my argument since day one. I was like, put any football coach up against their running back in a 40-yard dash, and you tell me that coach can't coach them because they can't run a faster 40-yard dash. Like, physically, they're never going to be able to outperform them. But a coach, people don't understand what happens behind closed doors with teams and their coach, because a coach is just all mental. It all has to be mental, and you just have to understand the game better than other people, or understand it in a different way that other people don't understand it. Not necessarily better, but it could just be a new vision, a fresh mindset, or a different perspective that makes a difference.
And coaching is not just this, overall like I'm the king, what I say goes, in terms of like it's not like that kind of like leadership or rulership. I don't know what the right word is, but
it's not a hierarchy.
Yeah, it's almost more of like a relationship, right? Like there's times when you're a coach that the players are going to see a situation or know something a little bit better than you, and that's fine. Like that's okay. Like I loved being able to go to practice and learn something new, and be able to also teach my players something new, or give them a new perspective, or ask a question that would spark their thinking and make them think about something or a situation or a play in a different way, from a different perspective, and adapt or change or, improve in some way, because that's the end goal, right?
Totally. I still, and I think that's a really important part of being a successful coach, is admitting that you don't know everything, admitting that there is still more to learn, and that you can be better, and that sometimes your players know better, because you're only gonna hurt your team with the mindset of, at the end of the day, it's always what I say goes. And there is some sort of structure and authority to the team, in that if there's like a disagreement going on, my say holds a little bit more value, because I'm not on the field and I don't have bias of how I want things to run for the game to feel good for me when I'm playing. It's, everybody understands that I'm there to make everybody good, and not just myself or one person. But there is plenty of times where I'm like, hey, so my players are Yoris, Jack, and Panda. So there's plenty of times where, Yoris is a really gifted mechanical player. He's really good at controlling his car and controlling the ball close to his car. So there's things that I'll be like, hey, Yoris, what do you think Panda could have done differently here? What's a better way to mechanically execute this? Or hey, Panda, Panda's really good at rotations and game sense. Hey, Panda, what do you think is a better decision to make here? And stuff like that. So it's really important that as a coach, you recognize your players' both strengths and weaknesses, and you use your other players as a tool to give your other players those strengths. So yeah, it's definitely really important that you involve your players, and it is a mutual relationship and not a hierarchy.
I love that. I love that you almost have your players be like assistant coaches in different aspects, because you're capitalizing on their strengths. I know that was something that we did almost naturally. Like the players would criticize each other if they saw a dumb play. The team captain, Explosive, was always very vocal about, that was a dumb play, or even Kenny was very vocal about how he thought the game should play, and if we needed to adjust a play, or if we did something wrong, or whatever the case may be. So I love that you're kind of forcing those discussions by asking those questions. Do you think that's something a lot of teams do naturally? Is that something your players do naturally, or do you think you prompting the questions is what encourages that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too in depth, just so that you know, if my competing coaches see some of this, I don't want to give them
No worries.
give them any kind of edge. But that's one of the things I don't think other teams are doing is trusting each other as much. That's something that every time we pick up a new player or every time I work with a new roster, that is a team, one of the first things I say is, look, when we go into replays, when we talk to each other, and we try to figure out what could be better, the first thing that needs to be understood is that nobody is here to trash talk. Nobody's here to call you out just to be mean. Nobody's here to say something to hurt your feelings. Everybody's intention is to make you a better player and make the team a better team. So you guys have to take these criticisms constructively, and you have to both, you know, also give the criticism constructively so that it doesn't come off negatively. But we will get nowhere if we're not honest with each other and we don't trust each other, because that's the, for me at least, that's the fundamental core of a team. Is if you trust your teammates and you're honest with them more than anybody else, or any other team, you're trusting your teammates more than any other team trusts each other, then we're always going to have a winning formula. It's just a matter of trusting each other, because you're going to, you know, you're not going to call each other out if you don't trust each other. And that's what a lot of teams do, is they're afraid to call each other out, because it's, I mean, especially Rocket League, the scene is so political, because the spots are in the hands of the players instead of the orgs. And so when the players own these spots, it's easier for the players to be like, all right, we want to pick up our friend, and we just pick up our friend because we like him, instead of, I mean, he's good at the game, right? But he might not be their absolute best option. It's just somebody that they're friends with. So there you get opportunities where people get picked up for being good, and then they think, well, crap, now I have to make sure that this guy likes me so that I don't get kicked off the team by him, because these guys hold the spot. And if, you know, if they hold the spot, they hold the power to replace people and this and that. So it's just, it's this big political mess. And I try to remove that aspect of it and say, look, we're not going to get anywhere if we're not honest with each other. So don't be afraid to be honest. If you're going to get replaced on the roster, it's going to be because you weren't working hard enough. That's the only reason.
Makes complete sense. Yeah, I think that's an issue a lot in esports, is there's always this fear that you're going to be benched, you're going to be dropped, especially the way the contracts work. And, you know, it's different than traditional sports. So I think that fear and that extra pressure, especially when a player is playing poorly, you know, like when they know they're the one to blame, like I've always pointed out, like there's never a point in ridiculing that player who's playing poorly, because most of the time they know that they're playing poorly. They don't need you jumping on their back as well. They already feel like shit. They already are mad at themselves, and you jumping on them is not going to help them improve. It's just going to make them more upset, and then they're probably going to lash back. And you see that all the time, or like, Nick, you played so poorly. Oh yeah, well, like, what about that shot that you missed? And it's like, then you've got this argument that's going, and nothing's constructive, nothing gets done, and the team continues to not play well.
We had this, I mean, very specific issue pertaining to that subject. Like, it was posted in a comms video, which I don't agree with. I expressed to my player, like, look, this part, you know, I don't think we should be posting any kind of the negative interactions between each other. But I think what the intention was is we had a player who was very stubborn and very like easily tilted, negative, and was just at times could be an ass, you know, and it was just, it came from frustration. So him and this other player on our team collided personality wise, and they didn't really like each other. And it was mainly because he didn't like the one guy. So it was just, in response, he didn't like him back. So, yeah. But there was a specific moment where this happened, where that player was like sighing every time the other player made a mistake. And it was very obvious. And it was showing that, like, he was frustrated with his teammate, and he was like, oh, I could have had a better teammate. If I had a better teammate, that would have went differently there. The situation would have been done better, whatever. And eventually the kid said something. He's like, he made a comment about him, and then the kid immediately lashed back. He's like, well, when you missed this shot, like, I didn't say anything. So, like, why are you coming at me for all this stuff? And it created this immediate tension that, like, I mean, am I allowed to curse, like, and say anything?
Yeah. Okay, I mean, so not anything, but, you know, you're a professional.
Right, yeah. So I mean, there was a moment where they were just going at it, and I was like, guys, shut the fuck up. Like, what are we doing? We're just like we're in the middle of a tournament. This is an important moment. We need to win this match, and you guys are focused on yelling at each other. So I said, shut the fuck up and, like, focus back up. Like, what are we doing? And you never want to have to get there. You never want to have to be in that moment where it's like two people have so much built up hate for each other about little things because they were never talked about.
Yeah.
That you have to talk about every little thing so that it doesn't become this 2-hour long conversation once a month.
Yeah, and I think that's why you see it in a lot of the franchise leagues and the esports that are a lot more well funded, like League of Legends. You'll see the management bring in people like sports psychologists, or they'll have their nutritionists and personal trainers to kind of help work out frustrations through exercise and making sure that their healthy diet, healthy mind kind of perspective, and hopefully, you know, get rid of some of those built up, pent up rage issues, and the team bonding exercises and stuff to help foster those relationships. I think when you were talking about, you know, making sure that everybody knew they were working towards like a common goal, right? When you're watching VODs, that you're not there to make fun of each other, ridicule each other. You're there to work constructively to achieve the goal that you were all set out to achieve, which happens to be the same thing. We want to fucking win. And right. So I think there's so many times where that perspective gets lost in teams. They forget that they're all there to achieve the same goal. Like nobody's there to not win. I mean, maybe there's the one-off player who's paid hundreds of thousands of dollars who doesn't care anymore because he's got that fat paycheck one way or another. But I can't think of any of those players off the top of my head.
Even those players, you wouldn't be in esports if you didn't want to win. You know, like you wouldn't be putting as many hours into this video game, paid or not, if you didn't want to be better than everybody you played against.
Yeah, it's competition. You want to win.
Absolutely.
It's not. I mean, sometimes it's about the prize money, but a lot of times there's pride and there's just that competitive spirit. You know, everyone's trying to satisfy that part of themselves with that competitive spirit. Speaking of winning, by the way, I was going through some of your track record, and there was a winning of the RLCS Season 9 for Europe that you accomplished, which, like, that's a pretty big deal, right? Like, talk me about, like, through that. Was that your first, like, major win?
Yeah, that felt good. That felt so good. You have no idea. I mean, I guess you do have an idea, right? 22 times, but that win was, I mean, it was a long time coming. That was the team that I got picked up on that was losing out of every single tournament, that exact roster. They were first out of every tournament they played in. They couldn't find a groove, and I came in and I had this vision for the game that nobody else was playing it the way that I thought it should be played at the highest level. And I started implementing more of a team play, where most people in Rocket League rely on like a pop-off player where somebody just does something crazy on offense and they score the goal or they create an opportunity by themselves. But I noticed that because of that, the highest level kind of got conditioned to leave the midfield wide open and just not care about the midfield because nobody ever used it. Mm-hmm. So I came in, I was like, this is soccer. Like, the fact that we aren't throwing infield passes from the wing doesn't make any sense to me. We should be doing that all the time. So I started doing what no other team was doing. I started structuring our practices in a way that everybody else scrims and just tries to win. And if they're not winning, they go into the next scrim trying to win and change some things to win. Yeah. But I came in and I was like, look, we're not going to just start winning out of nowhere. We got to improve certain aspects of our play. So we're going to go into each scrim and we're going to have this scrim fully focused on this. I don't care if we get scored on 100 times, as long as we're practicing this aspect. And in the beginning, it was passing. Mm-hmm. So I came in and I was like, we're going to do scrims where every single touch that you make is a pass to a teammate. I don't care if it gets intercepted. I don't care if it gets scored, if we get scored on because of it. I want you to get really, really good at passing to your teammates from anywhere. I want you guys to get really good at giving each other the option to pass to somebody, being in the right position. So we just started doing scrims that were passing only, where every single touch we would make would be a pass. And so in doing that, we isolated that skill and we just super improved on it like nobody else had done. Nobody else was passing the way we passed. I mean, our team was just like this cohesive unit that every single ball that was touched had a purpose for possession. Every single touch had meaning to it. And no other team was playing like that at the time. And so it started, I mean, it took a long time. It took like 2 or 3 months of failing at executing it for it to finally click, because when we go from passing only to, all right, let's play to win and incorporate that skill, we had just come from only doing it. So it's like, okay, we got to add it in and add in all these other things. And it's just, and I told them, I said, look, we're going to be worse in the short run. It's going to take us a while, because we're going to be focusing on these weaknesses, and so we're going to suck at them while we're practicing them, and we're going to lose all of our scrims, and it's not going to feel fun, it's not going to feel like we're improving, but trust me on it. And so they did. And I implemented this rotation style that allowed us to be in position to always pass. I structured our movement over the small boost pads in ways that no other team was doing at the time. And really with a single season, we went from, I think we were like 5-2 in the season, somehow barely made it to the regional qualifier to go to Worlds. And we were down 3-0 in a best of 7 against the team in the first round. And for some reason, like I was like, I mean, there's this speech that I gave that like it's in a YouTube video that I have, where I was like, guys, like we've been practicing so hard for this moment, and you guys sound like we've already lost the tournament. Like we still have one more life. Like it's a best of 7. We've lost 3. This is our last chance. So there's like nothing to lose here. Go out, balls to the wall, give it everything you got. And put into practice what we've been doing. Like, I mean, we were hitting crossbar with every shot. And I mean, I said, I'm tired of hearing close. Like we say close on every single shot we take. Start putting shots in. Like we do this for a living. Start doing it.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know what it was. It just clicked. And they instantly just were this team that was just like cohesive, and every decision was a hive mind decision, and the passing was there, and the execution, the shots were there. And so we came back in that series, reverse swept for, I think it was like the first reverse sweep of a best of 7 in Rocket League.
Wow.
Or one of 3 or something like that. And then we went on to qualify for Worlds, and then we went to Worlds and we came in 3rd place. Sorry. And then the next season we were hot. I mean, we were playing so good because we had just clicked. Like it just clicked after 3 months of finally like grinding, failing, losing, improving. It just all of a sudden clicked in that regional tournament on that game 4. And ever since then, we were just dominating. The field was ours. Like we had possession of the ball for like 60-70% of the game. We were taking like 5 or 6 more shots than our opponents every single game. They weren't getting to our net. We were controlling the midfield. It's just, I mean, we had this style of play that was as close to soccer as I think Rocket League could have ever gotten. And it changed the meta. It completely shifted the meta. I mean, teams started like camping the midfield because of us. We just like no team had done it, so it was like so easy for us to abuse once we got good at it. That teams shifted their entire play style to defend it. And I would consider Renault Vitality is like our rival team because we've always gone back and forth with them. One of their players is our captain, Violent Panda, his ex-teammate from Dignitas previously and before he switched rosters. So it's this rival team that they've always had our number. They've always been a step ahead of us. And so they got really, really good at shutting down our passing to the point where they started just anticipating our passes and fully committing to it. So in season 9, we kept that same play style. I think we won every single regional league play match and maybe lost 1 series. And we were coming into the regional finals. There was a world championship, but shut down because of COVID. So the regionals was all you could do. You could only win regionals, and that was the most. Everybody, I mean, they put more money into it. Everybody was trying to win it.
Yeah.
We came into that regional tournament, and we dominated with our play style all the way up to the grand finals, where we ran into Vitality. And we knew they were going to come into the game ready for our play style. So we did something that we had never done before. We started positioning for the passes, but not executing them and going solo plays. And so, I mean, there was moments where you would see like the players diving in to block a pass and leaving their net open for us to take the shot because they were, we had threatened that midfield pass so much and shifted the meta that team just was like, let's just block passes. I don't care about shots because the shot won't happen if they don't get the pass off. We just started and we controlled them. We got in their heads and we flipped the script. So
to make sure I understand this right, you spent an entire season with this play style of like if a player has the ball, they're passing it to their teammate, and then that's what initiates the shot, right?
In practice, in practice, yeah. In practice, it was I guess in play style wise, it was all about finding the opening, going there, and your teammate passing it to you there.
Gotcha. So that's the play style for an entire season, and now you're in the grand final. You've gone through this entire tournament with the same thing. Not many people are able to counter it. You get to the grand finals, they're going to counter it. So instead of that, you started going for, you're calling them like individual plays. So basically rather than making that pass, you're just going to carry yourself and make the shot.
But we made sure that we still positioned for the pass so that we had the person on the ball and another person positioned for the pass to receive it, so that that threat was always there, so that we always knew that they had to think about the pass.
So basically it would be like doing, like in football, if we're going to talk, or in American football, it would be like having the wide receivers go out for a pass, but then the quarterback runs it anyways, like one of those QB sneak kind of plays. That's like the equivalent.
Yeah, it was the bait. It was a bait and switch. It was, hey, this is the play style we've been doing. We're going to stick with it because we're going to show you our rotation is the same. We've got the guy there for the pass. He's in position to shoot it if he gets the pass, but we're just going to wait for you to dive in and block the pass that's never coming.
That's crazy. That's like a level of depth that I don't think, as a casual viewer of Rocket League, and I've watched Rocket League for a long time. Like I've watched since I think the birth of the esport. I mean, off and on a little bit, but you know, I remember watching Kronovi stream every day, and you know, when they got signed to iBuyPower as the iBuyPower team, and like
that was the first big Oregon Rocket League. I remember that.
So to hear this, and I don't think I've ever watched closely enough, I guess, to appreciate that kind of level of depth. Do you guys look at soccer and or you know, normal worldwide football and use that as inspiration for things that you come up with?
Absolutely. I played soccer my whole life. I grew up on soccer. It was my favorite sport to play, to watch, and everything. So yeah, I mean, I came into Rocket League with this like preconceived vision of how the game should be played. If everybody could control their car perfect, then in theory we should just be playing soccer. So yeah, when I came into Rocket League, it heavily influenced my coaching for sure. I've always been a team oriented like mindset in this game. Is that no one person, I mean, sure, you can have one person who pops off and makes a great play, but you have to have the team that's good enough to support and enable that person anyway. So yeah, it's always been a team aspect. And yeah, I mean, we'll go into Violent Panda and I, the captain, him and I mean, I do one-on-one replays with him the most. He's really good about wanting to do replays. Most players don't like watching replays. It's boring and tedious, or it's just it takes an hour and a half to sit there and break down a couple different plays. So
or it hurts their ego because they see all the mistakes they made.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So a lot of players don't like to get their heads into replays for long periods of time, but Panda is always great about it. He always he'll hit me up in our free time and on a day off be like, hey, let's watch some replays. So him and I we'll sit together and we'll watch like the best passing plays in soccer, like tiki-taka, those types of plays. And we'll ask ourselves, like, how can we convert that style of passing into Rocket League? What's the positioning need to look like? What's the boost management need to look like? What type of touches do we have to get? How do we recover off of our touches to be ready to receive the next pass, stuff like that. So yeah, we watch all kinds of stuff soccer related to kind of convert into Rocket League.
That's so cool that you get to have that opportunity to look outside of your own niche, which it's a fairly large niche of Rocket League, and draw inspiration from other places. Like I always wanted to read The Art of War and see because everyone talks about how that's such a tactical and like knowledge packed book, and I always thought it would be cool to read that and see if there's things that I could implement into Gears or any other game that I coached. But because it's these games that I'm coaching are violent games, they're not
there's
sports.
No real life version.
I mean, I'm not going into the military hopefully anytime soon, so I'm not going to draw real life combat experience, nor do I want to. And shout out to all the people who do that.
Yeah, seriously.
But that's really cool that you get to draw that outside inspiration.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then when we get to execute on it and it works, it's even better.
Yeah, like you get to see that idea come to fruition, and yeah, that's got to be so cool. So you pull this alternate strategy against Vitality in the grand finals. You win RLCS season 9, well, the European side. How's that feel, man? That's got to be crazy.
Yeah, I'm just getting emotional thinking about it because it was such a big moment in my career. It was like, I mean, we had just come from Worlds. We placed in third place at Worlds against Vitality. They beat us in a game 7 overtime, or no, a game 7 of a 7 game series. So yeah, it was really crushing to come and that far in such a short amount of time, place, get to third at Worlds. And I really think that had we won that series, we were winning Worlds, because Vitality went on and lost it to NRG, who was a North American team that was really hot as well. But I think our play style was more consistent, was stronger. It just came down to that game 7. We made a couple mistakes that we got scored on for. It was like a 1-goal game. And so like coming from a third place at Worlds, where it was like, man, we were so close. We almost proved that we were the best of the best. And then to come into the next season and just like dominate, because we were doing, it was working, it was clicking. And then to close it out, beating Vitality. I mean, if you go back and watch that series, even as a casual viewer, if you heard what I said about changing play styles, you'll notice it now that I've said it. You'll see like, oh, I see, like he's diving in to block a pass there and he's just taking it solo. So yeah, you'd be able to go and visually see the difference in our play style with that series versus every other series we played leading up to that. Our movement was the same, but our decision making was different. And yeah, to clutch out that win and just win regionals so dominantly after a dominant season, coming in as this coach that was a nobody that nobody wanted to give a chance to, it was just extremely validating. It was like, I know what I'm doing. I've been working really, really hard on being able to say I know what I'm doing. And now here's everybody that follows the scene, that follows the esport, gets to see that I know what I'm doing. And there's no question about it now.
You finally have that credential, like that notch in your belt that like proves it. Like, there's people who believed in you, I'm sure, but now you have that, like, that trophy, man, or the virtual trophy of like, see, like I told you all.
The irrefutable evidence.
Exactly.
Tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead.
Literally. No, I remember that exact same feeling. So not my first event. My first event like definitely helped that feeling, but even after that, there was still this whole thing of, you didn't do anything, and I could literally I still have the notebook that I had all the notes from my very first event in, and all the strats and preparation and stuff like that, and people still, there was no credit given. Coaches still they were the buddies, they were the friend of the team that wanted to go to the event and didn't want to buy a ticket. So
freeloader, that was the same thing in Rocket League when coaching was first becoming a thing. There was a lot of freeloader coaches that made a bad rep for the people who took it seriously. And it was like 90% of them were just friends who wanted to go to the event, like wanted to be a part of the scene, but weren't good enough. So yeah, I totally get that. It kind of ruins the reputation for the people who take it seriously, and now we have all this proving to do.
Yeah, exactly, man. And I'll never forget, one of my favorite event wins was our first major event win, where it was an open LAN event. It was for Gears of War 4. It was actually Thanksgiving, like that week. We had to travel out for Thanksgiving and had Thanksgiving dinner at some Italian restaurant down the street from the hotel. And it was in Columbus, I believe, back in 2018. And it was just like the first one where we competed. I think the prize pool was like 250,000, 300,000, something like that. So it was the first time big money on the line, big venue, like, a convention center kind of venue, and just tons of teams, tons of people. And same thing for us, man. We played our rivals, the Envy, because we were Optic, the El Clasico. And just that feeling of like, we faced some adversity in that event, but being able to bounce back and win the grand finals, and like, we're making our org proud, which is like a dream org, and we're showing people. And then for me personally, being able to go like, look, like the first one wasn't a fluke. Like here we are doing it at the biggest event that Gears has had in 5 years. Told you. I fucking told you, bro.
yeah I love that. That's it's got to feel good.
That feeling is crazy.
I was getting the first Worlds that I went to, was the only Worlds I've been to, was that season 8 where we came from losing every game, and in that season, I don't want to say I turned it around, because I didn't. We did, we turned it around.
Yeah.
It was a collective effort for sure. I mean, I had my part in it. I was a catalyst, but it was the players who executed. So we all worked together on it. We came back, and going to Worlds, I was up on stage with a notebook writing notes during the matches, and I was getting joked hard for it on stream and on Reddit, and I was like, all these people are saying like, what could he even be writing up there? Like, they're playing so well, what could he even be, what's he writing down? It doesn't make sense, there's nothing to write down. And yeah, it was just like, well, it doesn't matter whether you think it helps or not, because like we know it does. I know it does. I'm here to do the best job that I can do. And if writing some notes while we're playing, because what was happening is the first day I didn't write notes, and I didn't realize it, like that it would make a difference, because when I'm at home on my computer, I've got my whole desk in front of me. I got my notebook. I can write notes, no difference. But when I got to Worlds, I wasn't thinking about, let me bring a notebook, let me bring a pen, a pencil. It was just, let me get up on stage and let's do our job. And then once I got up there, I was like, man, I'm like, I would have this 60-second window between every single game to tell them everything that I noticed about our opponents and about us before our next match. And I was just having to recall stuff off memory. And the next match would start, and I was like, oh, I forgot to say this. And now they're going to be making that same mistake, and we could lose this series because of it. And it's all because I just didn't write it down and remember it. So the next day I came up with a notebook. I asked for some paper and a pen, and I went up there with paper and a pen and was just writing stuff down. And these two pros that were doing a watch party on Twitch, one of my buddies sent me a clip of them joking me, and they were like, what could he be writing in those notes? It doesn't make any sense. And so the next day I wrote on the back of my notes, so when the camera showed me, it would see the back of my notes. Their name was CJ, and Speed. We beat Speed's team to make it to Worlds, and we knocked them out of contention for Worlds. So I wrote on the back, I said, CJ, and Speed can make fun of my notes. And then real big, I wrote, from home.
Oh my gosh. Did they notice?
They did. My buddy sent me the clip of them noticing, and they took it as banter, which it was friendly banter. So it was cool to kind of get the opportunity to do that and have a spotlight on stage where I could banter with some people that were making a joke out of what I was doing, and just, shutting them up. Like, hey, I know what I'm doing.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you're not allowed in the team's comms when they're playing then, right?
At Worlds, they restricted it. So typically at home, there's no rules as far as what I can say and what I can't say, when I can say stuff. But when it was on stage at Worlds, they restricted it. They told us that we would have a headset at first to listen in and talk to our players between games. But then we got there day one, we didn't have headsets. So I had to sit there and talk into my player's microphone next to him, leaning over his shoulder, telling him what they need to do.
And you can't hear what they're saying back that well because it's loud and there's people.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, there's this whole element that was just like removed coaching from the aspect of it. So me and a couple other coaches got on the event managers, and we're like, hey, look, like, you guys promised us headsets. You said we'd be involved. We don't have anything out there. Come on, get us headsets. So the next day, there was this one guy who pulled through, Scheist. I love Scheist, really hard worker. Went and got us headsets, made sure that we were involved, and we got to then be involved. But the rule was no talking during games or during goal replays. We were only allowed to talk between matches. Now, not every coach followed this rule, and in hindsight, I wish that I didn't, because I didn't know that not every other coach followed it. But I didn't want to get us in any trouble, so I was just trying to do my best to follow the rules. But I would just talk between matches. There's a 60-second break between every game played in a series. So in that 60 seconds was when I was allowed to talk.
Gotcha. So you have 60, like, it's basically the clock starts as soon as the match is over, and you got to get all of your notes out and communicate it effectively, and all questions answered in that amount of time.
Yeah, and to do that without notes was like impossible.
Yeah, no, there's no way.
Yeah, I mean, there's a clip of me on stream. They got, like, the camera got up in my face next to me while I was talking to the players. I didn't, in hindsight, thinking back, I don't even remember the camera being there, but I was just sitting there yelling at my players. Like, I had like my notebook in my hand, and I was just like, this, and the camera's like right in my face, and everybody's like, what could he even be saying? Like, they just won that game. What is he telling him to do? I think the casters even, somebody mentioned on the stream, like, what could he be saying? They just played out of their minds. But yeah, I'm a perfectionist in the play style that I try to build for the team. So, like, there was just, one, I was calling out the minute weaknesses that we had, and two, I was calling out the things that our opponents were doing and not doing. And so it was, there's a lot of stuff that you got to get across to your team in that short amount of time. So the notes definitely helped.
No, that's awesome. I can completely relate, man. There's been so many times I've gone back and watched the rebroadcast, and the camera zoomed in on me, or feels like it's right in my face, and I'm like, I don't even remember that guy standing there. Like,
yeah,
you're just so in the moment, in the zone.
Yep.
It's kind of surreal looking back on it and seeing, like, just how unaware of the world around you, because you're so focused on like, I want to win, like I want this win more than I want water. Like
Yeah, every like interview that I've done, or anybody who asks questions that brings up that world championship, they're like, what's it like up there? I'm like, I wish that I could put it into words, but the closest I can get is it's me, my team, the opponents, and just a bubble around us. Nothing else in the world exists. There's nothing else going on in the world. There's no other thoughts in your head. The crowd, like, you can feel them, but you don't really hear them. It's just you, and you've got a job to do, and you focus on doing it. And it's so hard to explain why it's like that, but like, it's, for some reason, it was so easy to forget that literally everything else in the world existed. So it was just like this little isolated bubble of our own existence, that's the only thing that ever mattered in that moment.
Yeah, it's the weirdest experience. There's no way to really describe it to someone who's never actually done it, because when you're up there on that stage, like for me personally, the walk up, I'm nervous, anxious, but like an excited, nervous, anxious.
Yeah.
Like, you're confident that you can win, you're confident that the work is going to pay off, but at the same time, it's like, damn, there's a lot of people watching, plus all plus there's the stream, and damn, they look prepared and they're laughing and have a good time. Like, man, maybe there's something that they know that I don't, like the other team has something prepared. And so like, there's these thoughts going through your head, and then it's almost like, as soon as like, I think it's in the first 30 seconds of the game actually starting, like the loading screen, I'm still feeling it.
Yeah.
The ref telling us we're getting ready to start, I'm feeling it. But like, once that first like 20 to 30 seconds of the game is going, and it might be a little bit earlier for Rocket League, and you see like the first action starting to take place, the first touch on the ball, or in my case, the first shots being fired and stuff like that, it's like everything just goes away. Like the whole world around you stops, and there's nobody else, there's no audience, there's no casters, there's no cameraman, there's no other team other than the little people on the screen. It's just you and like these people that you've spent so much time with that you want to win with. It's so crazy.
Yeah, it's a relationship that, I mean, this is something I tell my players, like, as well. When we bring on a new player, I'm like, look, when you're on this team, you build a relationship that you don't get from anything else. Like, we do something that nobody else does. And I'm not just saying like us as a team, but us in esports. Like, as esports professionals, we're doing something that nobody else does and nobody else understands. And so we're going to relate to each other in ways that you can't relate to anybody else on. So it's this brotherhood. It's this relationship that you build with these people, that means a lot in so many different ways, that when you get to that moment, it's like, we're just in this together. It's just us. Only the four of us, and for you, I guess the sixth, but for me, only the four of us know what's going on right now. Only the four of us can really relate to each other, the experience and what we're going through, what's going through our heads. So when we get to that moment, we need to have this relationship that's just strong, trust in each other, that we can support each other in any kind of anxiety and any kind of self-doubt. So it's a brotherhood that you have to build with these guys, and that you put in, I mean, every single hour of every day, you're thinking about how you could be a better team. So it all comes down to that moment, and it's isolated, and like you said, everything else dissolves away. And for me with Rocket League, it's the kickoff. Once that kickoff timer starts counting down from 3, it's like, all right, game's on. Everything else just vanished. It's just us, this kickoff that's starting, and the game that we have to play.
Yeah, it's like all the lights turn off for everything other than the monitors that are in front of you, right? It's weird, man. Like, I don't think that we can ever describe what that feeling is like and do it justice. Like, there's no
totally
analogy, there's no metaphor that can really just describe that euphoria of like game time on a main stage in a high stakes tournament. It's
like you enter a different universe for that period of time. Like no other, there's no way to explain the feeling. I mean, I got off stage after that game 7 where we lost, and we had, right before that game 7, game 6, we had the longest overtime. It was like a 12-minute overtime.
Wow.
And it was just nonstop action the entire 12 minutes. Both teams taking shots, saving shots, taking shots, saving shots. And it was people, and I would agree, that's the best series of Rocket League that ever existed. And that was the best overtime to have ever existed in Rocket League, at least up to that point. So like, going through that in the moment, you don't realize it. But when I got off stage, my entire like lower half of my body was numb and my heart was beating out of my chest. I couldn't feel my feet. I couldn't feel my legs. And it was like, I didn't notice any of that when we were up there. We were just up there focused on what's going on. But the moment it's over and you come back to reality, I was like, am I having a heart attack? What's happening?
Yeah, literally everything, like any feelings. And that's the crazy thing too. Like the times that we lost, man, I remember like, there's that moment where you realize like this loss is the reality. Like we didn't achieve our goal. And it's like, all of the blurred out world comes rushing back. But not only is it that, it's the weight of the loss. It's like you get hit by a train. It sucks, man. Like I think that's something that motivated us. And I'm sure you can attest to this too. Winning almost doesn't become the goal. The goal becomes not feeling that shit ever again.
Yeah, when we lost that series, I mean, I genuinely thought, like, when we arrived at Worlds from day one, the entire time I was saying, look guys, we're winning. Like, we're here for one reason, and it's to win. And we decide now that we've already won it before it happens, so that we go into it confident, with the confidence knowing we're going to win every game we play.
Yeah.
So when we hit that wall and it was that loss, it was like, this whole season that we've been grinding and working and building up our play style and improving, it all came down to this one loss that ended our entire season. And I went backstage and the players were hit really hard. So like I was trying my best to comfort them and let them know like, hey, it's okay. Like third place is really, really fucking good. We came from losing every single tournament in our region to being the third best team in the world in the matter of a single season. So like, but as soon as they were out of the picture and they were gone, like I broke down. I was just sitting folded. I was in a chair folded over with my hands and my head in my hands, just like almost in disbelief. Like I couldn't believe that we lost there and that was the end of it. And it was just like, how did all that happen? What could we have done differently? How could we have done better?
Yeah. What could I have done? Like, what is there something? Yeah. Did I miss something? Could I have said something? Like,
yeah,
it's tough.
You question your existence.
Literally.
And so, yeah, I went out back into the crowd and sat, in the crowd that was assigned for like players and family and stuff, where we could kind of just be unbothered by fans. And not that fans are a bother, but like when you come off of a loss like that, you don't want to be interacting with fans like that.
No, you like it's there's some great fans who are supportive and be like, yeah, like nice try, man, like third place is great, like better luck next time, almost had it, like thank you. But also like, man, there's nothing you're gonna say that is gonna make this not suck.
Exactly. And I don't want that to be the image they would get of me. Like, I don't want them to be like, man, the one time I met this guy who I've been following online for so long and seeing him compete, like they did so well. Then the one time he interacted with me, he was like this bum who was just upset and couldn't be happy with his third place finish. And it's like, yeah, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I appreciate the third place finish. I love that we came in third place, but like we came here for first, you know? So it's like, I mean, for the rest of the event, like for the rest of the day, even watching the finals, like I don't even remember what happened in the final game. I remember who won. Like the whole time I was just sitting there, like slouched out in my chair, zoned out, thinking about everything leading up to that loss and what could I have changed. And it was like, people were coming by like, hey man, you guys did good. And it was like an automatic response of like, yeah, thanks. Like, yeah, appreciate it, whatever. But like, I wasn't there talking to them. I was in my head thinking whatever I was thinking through the loss. And
you like search for an answer, right? Like you're just trying to find something that like, you can do better, you can explain it, like a reason, a cause, or something like that. And I think it's different for coaches. I mean, it definitely is different for coaches than it is for players, because the game is literally in their hands, right? Like they're the ones moving the joysticks or pressing the buttons at the end of the day. But like and I'm not saying it's harder for us than it is for them or vice versa, but I think it's a different experience when you lose, because it's not in our hands. Like we're putting all of the same or a similar time and energy into getting that and achieving that win. And when it's literally not in your hands and it's not something that you can control other than the preparation, it's just like a different level of disappointment and doubt.
Yeah, because then, as a player, you're like, okay, this is the moment right here where I executed something wrong and we lost. But as a coach, it's like, in all the preparation that we did, what was the fault? Where was it? Because there's months and months of preparation. But for a player, there's that moment they can go back to. This is the moment that I made the mistake. This is the moment that I missed the shot or missed the save. But for a coach, it's like, what was the moment that I didn't get them to realize what I should have gotten them to realize? Or what was the moment that I didn't have them practice something I should have? Or what was the moment? Like, there's so many different things that it could have been that it's just like, you have no idea what it is. And then you start doubting everything that you've ever done. And it's like, do I even know what I'm doing?
Yeah. And then you just get hit with a barrage of punches for the next week or two because of social media. You know, like your phone's blowing up of all the supporters saying nice try and tagging you, which is like polite slaps to the face. And then all the people who are haters going, see, told you aren't worth shit, and tagging Reddit. You. And
I can't get on Reddit after events. I can't.
No, it's just crazy.
It's Reddit. Yeah, it is tough. And I appreciate everybody who reaches out like that, because don't get me wrong, like, it means something. It's such a good feeling to know that all these people are following your journey and your career, and are like, you know, we really wanted to see you win, and you made us really happy with the performance, and I appreciate all of it. So I don't want to take away from that and discourage people from seeing this and going, oh, I shouldn't reach out to him after a loss or something. But it is just to explain the perspective of, like, you have to cut us some slack in the sense that we might not respond, or we might not give you the response you're looking for, or we might take it a lot harder than you think we should. But it's just that competitive desire to be the best, and that's what it is. It's just I wasn't the best, and I'm pissed off about it, and I'm trying to figure out how I could have been the best.
Yeah, how to manage those emotions too. No, that's completely true, man. Like the support is one of the best feelings in the world, and the positive voices that are in the community who support like our work and the team's work, the players, all of that is so amazing. It's just in that moment you're so blinded by like not depression, but like rage and disappointment and like these just negative emotions. It's hard to really appreciate it until afterwards, and you're kind of back on the grind. And bro, the worst feeling in the world is traveling home from an event. Okay, I don't want to get like canceled because I said the worst feeling in the world. The worst feeling as an esports competitor in the world is that feeling of having to fly home from an event after a disappointing loss. God, that sucks, because you don't have anything to do in an airport. You're just looking at your phone.
Dude, especially from a foreign country. We were flying home from Spain. My flight was like 15 hours. I was on the plane just thinking about how we lost the whole time.
There's nothing to distract you. There's no good food. There's no friends or computer that you can get on and bury yourself in another game. It's just reflection. Yep.
It's rough. It was a tough travel day for sure. Luckily, I fell asleep, I think, for like 60% of the flight, but sitting in the airport waiting for it, I just pull up the series and watch the series back over and over and over. I struggle, like when we lose the like majors, like I'll eventually watch the VOD, but man, watching, I don't want to see anything about, I don't want to see the words Gears of War if we lost an event. I want to just talk to my team in our group chat and be emo with them, and that's it, ignore the world. But I'm kind of the opposite. I don't like to dwell on things. Like if it's for me and we take a loss, I like to immediately get my mind off it with good vibes by like, all right, guys, let's go play a different game. Let's go do something else and talk about something else and think about literally anything else but what we just did.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. I wish I had that ability. I struggle to compartmentalize like that. So let's, we talked a lot about that season. I actually, before I reached out to you the other day, I was watching your guys play because you had a tournament like last weekend, right?
Yeah, we had the winter split major just this past weekend.
And what did you guys end up placing?
We placed third in the major. That felt good.
Yeah, that's great. You guys, because I remember I was watching and trying to catch up on the scene, and that's honestly what sparked the. I've been playing Rocket League, and then it sparked me to want to start watching the esport more. And then I was like, I should get somebody from Rocket League on the podcast, since like that's I'm wanting to bring it back, and I'm this is what I'm into right now. So I reached out to you, and I reached out to why am I drawing a blank on his name? But the guy from NRG,
Sis.
Yeah. And I was like, I just want to talk about Rocket League and coaching and stuff like that. So BDS caught me by surprise because they are like the team to beat right now, apparently, right? Like they're winning everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've won like the last 7 major tournaments they've played in.
What's that about? Break it down from like a coach's perspective without giving away like any secret plans you have on how to beat them in the future. Like,
yeah, we've been studying their replays for the past like week or two, pretty heavily, and this is the first time that we've ever studied another team to get better instead of studying our own replays, because for so long Panda and I, the captain, him and I had just clicked from day one, and that's why he wanted me day one, is just him and I have had such a similar vision for the game, that we've clicked. We've got this really good relationship. Him and I trust each other really well. And there's just this deep understanding of each other with the vision of the game. So him and I have a pretty good system. We're really good at building a team and creating success with a team with our vision. But this BDS roster is the first roster to really come in and shake things up and show us that, like, it's kind of humbled me specifically. It's humbled me. It's like, I don't have the best system. Clearly somebody else is doing something that works better. So like, let's learn from it. And our player, apparently Jack, is when it brought up, he's like, we should watch BDS replays and see what it is they're doing. And I was like, yeah, we should. Why haven't I thought of that? Why aren't we doing that now? So it's like, let's just do that. So yeah, we've been watching their replays a lot. We're kind of catching on. We're stealing a lot of their strengths and implementing it into our play style. But to sum it up and make it simple, the reason they're doing so well is because individually the three of them have an understanding of each other really deeply, that I don't know if it's a natural connection or if it's something they worked on. I don't really know their structure behind the scenes, but they read each other way better than any other team right now. They're really good at knowing what their teammates are going to do before they do it, knowing what they're really good at reading opponents as well. They're really good at anticipating what's going to happen next, and they just have a really good understanding of, without hesitation, knowing, okay, my teammate's going to go for this, so I'm not going to go. Okay, I'm going to go for this, so he knows I'm not going to, or he knows I'm going to go, so he's not going to go. Mm-hmm. It's just the way, like, they have this connection that they're just like, they play off of each other really well. They bounce off each other, and they never, I mean, they make mistakes very rarely, but the mistakes they do make are still always covered because they understand each other so well. I think it's just this chemistry that they've built. They're in each other's head. They have like a hive mind. They all know what each other's thinking.
That's very interesting. So you don't think it's really necessarily like they're not the next mechanical gods, so to speak. I mean, they're really good, obviously, right? But it's not like a mechanical difference. It's just this teamwork and this understanding difference.
I definitely attribute some of it to the mechanics, because all three of them are really good mechanically. They're all three really consistent, and Monkey Moon in particular is one of the more consistent players that we've ever seen in Rocket League, in terms of when he goes for a touch, he pretty much always gets the touch he wants, whether it be the angle, the power, whatever it is. He's really, really good at always getting the touch he wants. And so maybe he's taught his players, his teammates that, or they've learned from him on that. But the three of them are always really, really good at getting the touches they mean to get as well.
Yeah, I was noticing that when I was watching, and obviously, like, I'm still struggling to time aerials, so I'm not the greatest understander, or I don't have the greatest ability to relate to the depths of the mechanics. But I was noticing, watching him play in the grand finals, that it just felt like he had a different level of control. Like, it seemed like, I mean, every player in watching, they make it look easy, and it's not. And they all seem to be able to do things that I can't even imagine doing. But him just a little bit more, like just a smidge more of, like, it didn't look like he was missing shots as much as, oh, I didn't want that one to go in. Like, I wasn't trying, I was trying to bounce this one off the backboard. I wasn't trying to, this wasn't a missed shot that we're making a play out of. It felt like there was this invisible hand just perfectly steering and controlling his car wherever he needed it to go. And I think even the casters were pointing that out. Like, Monkey Moon is just, he's a mechanical, god, so to speak. So to add in that extra level of understanding that you're pointing out, that makes him scary. I can see why they're winning.
Yeah, he's not even like, when you think of mechanical players, I don't know how much you know about Rocket League, so I'm going to throw a name out. You might not know it, but when you think of mechanical, you think of players like Justin or Astral or Yoris, like these kids who can do all these crazy things, like really cool flip resets, air dribbles, double tap, off the ceiling, all this crazy stuff. You don't think of somebody who's simple that executes perfectly every time. But that's what Monkey Moon is he's this simple player mechanically, but he's mechanical, but he's mechanically simple. And I think that's allowed him to get so consistent because he doesn't ever do more than he needs to. He doesn't ever overcomplicate anything or make something flashy for the sake of, being unpredictable. He has a vision of what he needs to do, and he does that and only that.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense. I mean, those names, I think 2 out of the 3 of those I recognized, and Saul, Astral was on one. Which team is he on? Because he was in that tournament too, right?
He's on Oxygen, yeah.
Oxygen, yeah. So I saw Astral. I watched them play in their matches. Justin's on NRG, so obviously this was a European tournament, right?
So you saw Astral lose to us then, right?
Yeah, I did. But I like how you added that. You threw that out there.
Yeah, he used to be on our team. He was the first roster that we made it, third place at Worlds at. And that he's the one who had the conflict with one of the other players, and that's why he ended up leaving, was just this hostility. But yeah, it's really satisfying to beat his teams, because I told him, I said, look, like I want to support you with whatever you do and wherever you go. If you want to leave this roster, that's fine, but I want you to understand you're never going to find a team that will enable you the way that we do, because we understand how great of a player you are, and we understand how to support that, not rely on that. And watching him go to another team, they play like they rely on it and not support it. So it's just really satisfying to beat him.
Oh yeah, no, I had a player who we dropped at one point, who then like tweeted that we would never win without him, and then we went on like a 9-event tear or something like that.
Nice.
like all right, but no, we're cool with him. No, I completely get it though. So, but yeah, man, I was pretty surprised, because I'm not too in tune with the Rocket League, like the esport, and I don't know every single name. Obviously, I know the NRG guys because we were with NRG, and I know Kronovi, and like I know you,
right.
But
the names.
Yeah, like a lot of the big names. The
big names.
Yeah, yeah, right. The humble brag.
Yeah,
I recognize those, but the names on BDS weren't ones that stood out to me. So they must have come along in this kind of like year or two that I haven't really been watching.
Yeah, they blew up this season in particular. They just started winning everything.
That's crazy. Well, good for them, man. I'm happy for them for the sake of the esport, and I'll be happier when I watch you take them down, right?
we just recently beat them back in December, so not too long ago. We beat them 4-0 in a best of 7.
Wow.
I don't think that they were playing their best, and obviously if we 4-0 them, there's no way they're playing their best.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're capable. We just lost a series against them in the major, and it was like 1-goal games the entire time. I really think that watching their replays and studying them, we figured a lot out about them, and I think that we're going to be the first team here pretty soon to be consistently beating them.
I'm excited to watch it, man. I'll be your fan. Plus, I'm a longtime Dignitas fan. Like, I have an old like 2010, 2011 Dignitas Pro hoodie with like all the old sponsors and stuff on it. So I'll start wearing that when I watch you guys play.
Yeah, give us some good luck.
There you go. What made you start coaching in a European team? Because you're obviously based in North America. Are you still in Texas?
I actually just bought a house in Jacksonville, Florida. We moved here December 28th.
Wow. Well, congratulations, and good move, because you dodged all this crazy winter crap that we've dealt with.
Oh my god, dude, I can't believe it. It was I have like survivor's guilt, because I got out right before it happened, and all my friends are like, "Yo, we've been out without power for 80 hours," and I'm like, "Dang, that really sucks. I'm fine over here."
I know, man. My wife and I got really lucky. We didn't lose power. We didn't lose water. My internet was shaky, so first world problems. But
yeah.
I don't even have I wanted to go help people, but I'm snowed in. I drive a Honda Accord. I'm not getting out of my driveway, let alone down the street. Yeah. So
it was wild.
So you're in Florida now. You're East Coast. That has to help a little bit, but they're still 5 to 6 hours ahead of you. How does that work?
Yeah, my schedule, it actually worked out really well at first when I was in Texas, and it works out well now, but it worked out really well at first. I thought it was going to be an adjustment, but because I'm always up late. Like I'm a night owl, so I like to work late at night.
Is that a pun for the Dignitas poster behind you?
No, it wasn't, but it is now. Yeah, like I've always been up late, sleeping in the next day. So like it was an adjustment at first, but once I switched, because they're, like you said, in Texas, they're 7 hours ahead of me. So I was up really early for our practices, up really early for our tournaments. But it was nice because then I got work out of the way early in the morning, and I had the rest of the day, and that kind of enabled me to start doing content like YouTube and Twitch and stuff like that. It was just, I had the rest of the day to do whatever I wanted, and it was just, I wanted to do YouTube, so I got a lot of YouTube stuff done.
That's awesome. So speaking of YouTube, because that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. Being part of Optic, I was part of that. It's content season, content is king culture, which I still think is even more so now is more important, is like really king. Like it was king before, and shout out to Hex and everything that he taught me, and Scump for the inspiration and the work ethic.
I just want to say one, like being on Allegiance and working in the same building as Optic like was surreal, because I grew up in the Virgin Islands. I grew up on the worst ping imaginable. I had red bars all the time. I played Call of Duty all day every day. I played Gears of War 2 originally, and then I switched over to Call of Duty. And those were the guys that I would watch like all day, every day. It was just their YouTube channels. And so it was surreal getting to work in the same building. The first time Hex said anything to me, I about died, because he drove up in his G-Wagon, hopped out of we were waiting outside for our ride at the office. He hops out the G-Wagon, walks by us, and in classic Hex voice just goes, "Sup, boys," and then just like walks by us. And I was like, oh my God, he just said sup to me. Like, to me, that was crazy. So yeah, I just wanted to say that was an incredible opportunity to even be there. So anyway, sorry.
I completely get it. I remember my first call that he was on, like when we like signed the contracts and he was like welcoming us. There's still things that things that he said to us that on that call that like I hold true as like work motivation. But I watching his vlogs was a daily routine for me. Like
he paved the way for gaming content, like him and the Optic group in the beginning. It was just, in the beginning, that's really what it was just a content team for fun that they did like just a bunch of YouTube stuff, and they were enjoying it, and it created this community, and it was the first of its kind. Like nobody else was doing it.
Yeah. I think there's something really powerful about that. I mean, we can see it now that he's got Optic back and is doing his thing with them, and it's truly Optic again. But so you were in those offices. Were you, I remember like you guys getting pulled in for videos and stuff. Like I remember you guys did that video where you went to Chick-fil-A and oh God, what was the player's name? I'm drawing a blank on it. Seabass had to do like work in Chick-fil-A for a day, and
that was my idea, and I loved every minute of it. That was the best video I think I've ever been a part of. That was amazing.
Well, I still order from that Chick-fil-A, so
nice. Yeah, you have to go in and tell them. So I was like, so it actually, the idea was in my head for a while, but bringing it up to Connor stemmed from Seabass pissing me off in our apartment one time because he didn't understand the value of a job. He didn't understand that that life doesn't just get handed to you, and he wasn't doing his part in the apartment. He wasn't picking up after himself. He wasn't cleaning it. And I was like you have it good. Like you don't realize how good you have it. I just came out of working 3-4 years in the restaurant industry, so I understand like how I enjoyed it while I was doing it, but how miserable it is to work a job you don't want to work.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was upset. I was like, dude, you need that experience. Like you'll get so much more respect for everybody around you when you realize how hard you have to work when you're not in the gaming industry. So I went to Connor. I was like, let's get him a real job. Let's go bring an esports pro and give him a real job for a day and make content out of it.
I remember watching that video and I was dying laughing at the struggle. And I think realistically, I think it should be like almost part of education. Like it should be part of your high school graduation requirement that you spend at least a month in the food industry. Because I think
a part-time service industry job.
Yeah, I think if you work in the food industry, because I worked like every summer from when I was 14 till I owned a donut shop for 3 years.
Wow.
I worked in donut shops every summer, 5 to 6 days a week, early morning to late afternoon, and then was done for the day. But being in the food industry is just a different animal. You deal with all kinds of people. And I worked at Staples, so I've been in like customer service and sales, and just something about the food industry, man. It's just, if people don't get exactly what they want or what they're expecting for the right price, and it's entirely your fault.
You got to smile the whole time too.
Yeah. Well, I didn't learn until near the end, unfortunately. Everyone says the customer's always right. And I learned, no, it's the customer is always the customer.
Right. Yeah.
Which totally, I liked a lot better.
Yeah, it is. The customers, they're giving you your money. That's
Yeah,
that's the end of it. It's like they get what they want because they're giving you your money. It's not because they're right. It's because they're giving you their money.
exactly. So I loved that content that you guys put out with Allegiance, giving him that job, but you really took on the content grind yourself, because I'm pretty sure back then you weren't on this YouTube grind. I remember you even talking about it, like wanting to do it a little bit in the office. So what really sparked that for you?
I actually started it at Allegiance. It was when we picked up 2 content creators for Allegiance. Connor came to me. He said, "Hey, Allegiance wants to pick up a couple of YouTubers for Rocket League. Who do we pick up?" And there's this guy, Sunless Khan, that I was watching from day one of Rocket League, like content, and he's been making videos ever since. And I was like, Sunless Khan, if you want anybody in Rocket League that's going to dominate the YouTube industry in Rocket League content, whatever, get Sunless Khan. So Connor was like, all right, let's do it. So they picked up Sunless Khan. They brought him in, and I was like, listen, dude, Sunless, I'm a huge fan. I've been following you since day one, like all your videos. I love them. I have this great idea, because I've always thought, as an analytical person, if I had the editing ability that you have, because he's a video editor, he went to school for video editing. He started YouTube as a hobby while he was a video editor full time, and quit his video editing job to go full time on YouTube for Rocket League. I was like, if I had the ability to edit like you could, I swear I could make the best Rocket League tutorials anybody has ever seen. So I pitched this idea to him. I was like, what if we do a video where your viewers send in their replays and I analyze them with you, and then you'd make a video out of it, and we call it Allegiance University. And he loved it. He was like, dude, my viewers have been asking me to coach them forever. Let's do it. So we started this series on his YouTube channel called Allegiance University, where his viewers would send in their replays. We'd pick people out, or they'd send in their ranks. We'd pick people out to make them play together. They would go play together. They were similar ranks, and then they would send us the replays of them playing together. And then I would break them down in my coaching style with the pen on screen and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when, I think that was like the first showcasing of what Rocket League coaching was like, because nobody else was using the pen at the time. Nobody else was publicly coaching. I was coaching on my stream for free, and getting 20 viewers or whatever. But he had a channel of like 200,000 subscribers, and his videos were getting hundreds of thousands of views. So we did Allegiance University, and I was like, if I'm gonna be doing videos and be getting featured, like not even just partnering for a video, but like fully, like the video was featured around my coaching style and like this and that. So I was like, I'm gonna make a YouTube channel and start making tutorials, and I'm gonna start learning how to edit from this guy and have him help me, because the whole idea of bringing him onto Allegiance was that he would help build a content career for the players and stuff. So I was like, I was taking advantage of it. I was like, I'm gonna do as much as I can with this. So I started making tutorials. I started having him help me with editing, and that's when, the first video I uploaded, I had 10,000 subscribers already because he had shouted me out.
Wow.
So yeah, like I was very fortunate in my start on YouTube. I didn't really have that grind for a year to get my first 1,000 subscribers, then start snowballing. It was just like the very beginning. It was just, hey, here's the spotlight on you. Make some good content.
That's insane. I remember, I just read recently, and I'm going to get the stat wrong. It was a post where Mr. Beast uploaded for 3 years or 5 years, and it was like the number of uploads, and he got like no views. Like he had before he had 1,000 subscribers, I think it was. He uploaded for like consistently for like 3 to 5 years before he had 1,000 subs, and then he figured it out, and obviously he is who he is now. So I think the fact that you got that jump start, man, that's awesome. And
I'm super fortunate. I say it all the time. Like when everybody asks me, anybody at all is like, how do I get started on YouTube? I'm like, I have no clue. Do not ask me how to get started on YouTube, because I didn't get started on YouTube. I started YouTube. Like I just started it and it worked. I didn't get started.
Yeah. So you took that. I mean, you had your first video, you said you had 10,000 subs. Now you're at 119,000 and some change. You've got your silver play button, right? It's up on the wall. Yeah. Okay. I thought that's what it was. So, tell me about that journey, man. Cause that's in the last 2 years, 3 years. So
yeah.
How's that going?
I love every minute of it. I mean, I wish that I had more time to do more content. It's really difficult to balance a full-time career in the game that I play, while also, like, even in my off time, I'm studying replays or, trying to figure something new out that the players can learn. So to then add on top of that, 3 or 4 hours of editing Rocket League content, um, in a single sitting is really taxing. It's mentally taxing because it's just like Rocket League for 10, 12 hours a day nonstop. But it is really, really fun. It's rewarding because I really enjoy getting to show people how to do things. And like, hey, I spent 1,000 hours trying to figure this out. Here's a 5-minute video that will teach you everything I learned in 1,000 hours. So like, again, it was another one of those, I'm in a position to be able to give back. And now I learned to edit from one of these guys who's got a degree in editing. And I've learned so much from him, and he's helped me so much that I can create these cinematic tutorials where it's not a 45-minute video of me just rambling. It's a 5-10-minute video of this like movie style tutorial that you don't even realize you're learning from until the video's over. And it's like, man, that was a good video. Oh, I also learned to do all this. That's awesome. So anytime I make a tutorial, I try to make it like a cinematic. I try to make it a movie. And that's why my intro is what it is because when I worked with the guy on making the intro, I was like, look, I want my intro to basically say, hey, you are about to watch a movie. So it's this super cinematic intro. It's really, really cool. The guy's worked like in professional video, 3D modeling and all this stuff for really big names, big companies. And he's really, really good at what he does. And he hooked me up and given me an awesome deal so that I could afford his work. But it's been an incredible journey because I really love giving back and seeing what people have to say about it, like getting to read all my comments all the time. And for a while it was taxing because it was reading, going from 10,000, 20,000 subs, reading all my comments to 100,000 subs, reading all my comments. The amount of negativity like just exponentially grows. Yeah. And going from reading all my comments to with a smaller channel to now reading all my comments with a larger channel, there was like 3 or 4 months where I was like, man, like, why am I even doing this? Like if there's these people out there who have seen 5 minutes of me and just like absolutely hate me for it, why am I even doing this? Because it's really hard to read those comments and like have people judge you that hard when they know so little about you and you know nothing about them, but then they have this platform to give their opinion. So for a while I was like really demotivated. I was like, man, like I'm grinding my ass off trying to give these free tutorials out to people just to help because I enjoy helping, and there's people out there who hate me for it. Like, what am I doing with my life? But then after a while I started, I was talking to Sunless more because again, he's just been he's held my hand through my entire YouTube career. He's been there to help me through all of it.
Like a mentor or something.
Yeah, absolutely. A mentor is a good way to put it. I appreciate everything he's done for me. So I get to talk to him. I go to him for advice and stuff. I'm like, hey, do you read a lot of your comments? He's like, yeah. I'm like, do you read a lot of negative comments? He's like, oh, way too many. You don't even know. And I was like, how do you deal with it? Like, how do you put up with all these negative comments? And he's like, at first it's hard because it's new. But once you start to realize like how many negative comments versus how many positive comments, you start realizing that the ratio is like, 1,000,000 to 1. There's 1,000,000 good comments that you read and it's happy in that instant. But then there's that one comment that's a negative that sits with you forever. So that's why it feels like there's all these bad comments because you're not remembering the good ones. So I've put more focus into reading and appreciating and remembering good comments to kind of help me get through it. So it's like, you know what? Yeah, there's 1,000,000 people who think that this guy's an idiot. And if he thinks I'm an idiot, who cares? There's 1,000,000 people that agree with me that he's an idiot. Yeah. So like, yeah, it's been a kind of a mental struggle, but I'm starting to get the hang of it, and I'm really enjoying getting to interact with the community and just build a community around a game that I love, and doing something that I love. And yeah, I'm getting better at it every day. I try to always do one new thing in editing every video that I edit so that I'm always learning something new about editing. And it's just, I want to be a content creator. When I retire from coaching, when I retire from professional esports, I want to be a content creator. I want to make YouTube videos. I want to make, funny TikToks. I want to stream on Twitch, and I want to do it. I want to make people laugh, and I want to make people enjoy the game that I enjoy.
Love it. Do you stream?
So I used to stream, and then when my YouTube started taking off, I stopped streaming to focus more of my time on YouTube because it made more sense with the growth my YouTube was seeing. Now that my YouTube has kind of leveled out and it's starting to really, naturally snowball even more, and I'm getting the hang of editing and I'm getting better at it, quicker at it, I am going to start streaming this year. I want to start doing 2 streams a week and start including that into my schedule, because I feel like I've gotten the hang of YouTube now, and it's kind of I've kind of babied it enough to where it will now kind of work on its own a little bit better, and I can focus my time elsewhere. So probably within the next month or so, I'm going to be streaming at least, once, twice a week.
That's great. I'll make sure that all the links to your YouTube, your Twitch, and everything are down in the description. Not you have a way bigger platform than me, so I don't know why. If anything, I need my links in your description, bro. But yeah, man, I remember like when you first started uploading, because they were on my timeline, right? And I remember like watching them and like, oh cool, like he's creating content, like that's dope. And I wasn't like, I kind of gotten out of Rocket League a little bit because I hit that point where it's like, all right, like I suck and I'm accepting I suck, so yeah, there's not much more. Yeah. And then I started playing Rocket League again maybe 2 weeks ago, and I was like, damn, like I really suck. I need to get better. Oh yeah, Virge does YouTube content. I wonder if some of his tutorials are still up there. And then I saw like your channel's at 119,000 subs, and I'm like, holy shit, like this guy's telling you're uploading frequently. And I'm like, damn, like this guy's doing it. Like he's not only is he this championship coach, but like he's doing the content thing and he's doing it well. And I watched some of your tutorials, and now that you've pointed it out, like that's definitely true. Like I didn't feel like I was watching a tutorial. I felt like I was watching an entertaining, in-depth explanation on how I can be better at a certain thing. And
awesome. I'm glad it comes across.
Yeah, like it wasn't one of those dry, like I'm sitting here thinking about it now, and I'm mad at some of the content that I put out, because I've put out tutorials and I'm thinking about like what the hell was I doing, man? Like
I've watched some of yours. I watched I think it was because I used to play Gears, so I played it pretty. I was I don't mean to brag to the 22-time world championship coach in Gears, but when I was this little 12-year-old kid who played Xbox all day, there was a point in time where I reached number 1 in Wingman in Gears of War 2, and I was like grinding that game day in and day out, so I knew it pretty in depth. So I've enjoyed some of your content. Like I think it was like a crab walk tutorial where it was like you bouncing off walls and how to move better and something like that.
Yeah.
It was like I don't want to say that it was a bad video, but it was drawn out, like, and that's what I strive as an informer to like not do, is because I would watch tutorials on Rocket League. I was like, this is a 45-minute video. I'm not going to sit here for 45 minutes to figure out how to drive a little bit better in a car soccer game.
That's literally something I was seeing too. Like I played a game where I played a solo ranked 3v3 placement match, and one of the guys on my team was clearly a Smurf. And for those you don't know, a second account of a player who's probably way higher ranked than where I was. And all the kickoffs, he did that like diagonal spiral jump flip. Yeah, the speed flip. He's getting to the ball way faster than anyone else in the game. And he's basically solo scoring. And I think we won like 12 or no. Sorry, that was a different game. We won like 19-1 because of him. He was 18 of the goals. So like, and I remember watching, I'm like, what the hell is he doing on these kickoffs? And why can't I do that? Like if I double jump, then I'm there late. And if I like, he's going diagonally. I was even typing to my friends in our group chat. I was like, I don't know what this guy's doing, but he's double jumping diagonally and spinning, and he's getting to the ball way faster than everyone else. I need to learn this. And so I went on YouTube, and there was, like you're saying, like 30-minute tutorials. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't care that much.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care that. That's exactly it. I don't care that much. Like, it's just
yours was short, concise. It was like 6 to 10 minutes. I don't remember exactly, because I watched a few of your videos. But it was like short enough that it was digestible, but it was in depth enough that I knew how it worked and how to do it. Have I practiced it? No. Did I try it a bunch? Yes. But I understood it. You know what I mean? And so like your content, man, like I was complimenting you before, but I didn't even really get into this. Like your content as somebody who's a coach and has taught countless players, your content is that perfect blend of entertainment and informational. Like, I don't want this is not an insult, I promise. But do you remember Schoolhouse Rock?
I do. I think so.
Like where it was like the musical songs, but it's to teach kids about like how bills work and grammar and stuff. Like yours is like the adult Rocket League version of that. Like I'm entertained, it sticks with me, and I know how to do something coming out of it better than I did going into it. So it's like, God, why is nobody else doing that, man? It's so awesome.
They are now. I definitely didn't. I don't want to say like I started, because I don't know if anybody took inspiration from my videos or not. But like now, there's a much more saturated market. People are starting to do it. But it used to be like, the reason I started doing it this way is it used to be like a 20-minute tutorial of somebody in free play, just in free play, explaining what they're doing, like from their point of view the whole time. And I'm like, some of this stuff you got to break down from like different angles. I got to show you from above the car. I got to show you behind and front. Like I got to zoom in, zoom out. If you're just sitting there in free play showing me what you're doing, like I'm not going to see how how it works in the game. I'm not going to understand the physics of the game better. I'm just going to see you do it and make it look easy. Like it's not going to help me at all. And I'm going to sit there and watch 25 minutes to see you do it. So
yeah, well, we all have short attention spans now. Like we all want to do our thing and move on, and that's that. So love it, man. I love the content grind that you're on. And it's inspirational for me too, truly. Like I see the grind that you've been on, and I see the work that you're putting into it, and it inspires me to work harder on my own. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that a lot. That means a lot. Again, coming from you, like coming into Allegiance, and like seeing your reputation was just like holy shit, like coaches can be something. Like coaches, that's a position, like that's a full-time real career that somebody could be. So like, yeah, you in a sense, like you before I was able to see if it was real or not, like you validated that I was working for something. Like it was, I wasn't as doubtful. I wasn't as skeptical. I was like, am I working for something? I was like, no, like I can make myself something. He's something. He made himself something just entirely off of this brand of being a coach. I could do it too. So like, again, like coming from you, that means a lot. So I appreciate that a lot.
Hell, man, I appreciate that. Like that's insanely flattering. So this is that awkward moment where
blow each other's heads up over and over and over.
Yeah, right. Like this is gonna just turn into, I don't know. But look, man, I know I've kept you for a while. It's been so awesome to be able to finally go in depth and talk to you and talk to another great coach and another esport that I know not enough about and can't play worth a damn. So thank you so much for the time, man. Is there anything you want to say or shout outs or anything like that?
Yeah, shout out to my girlfriend Katie. She's been supporting me the whole time. She's been enabling me to do this, and I say this to her every day. I wouldn't have made the career that I've made. I wouldn't be where I am content wise, followership wise, everything. Like I wouldn't be where I am without her. So I want to give her a huge shout out. And nobody sees it because it's behind the scenes, but she does everything for me to allow me to pursue this dream. So I really appreciate her.
Was she there before the check mark?
I've been with my girlfriend. We're coming up on 7 years now. We're high school sweethearts. So
oh wow,
she's been there for me the whole time, and she was the first person to tell me to go for it. She was the first person to. Sorry, a little emotional. She was the first person to really tell me that I could do it before it was ever a thought in my head of, can I do it? She was like, yeah, like I know who you are. I know how passionate you are about this. Like you will make it happen. So go do it.
That's awesome, man. I just recently, I'm not high school sweethearts, but I've been with Sarah for, oh crap, she's going to get mad. Like 5 or 6 years. I think 5 years. And we just got married like a month ago. And
congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice.
And same thing. She was here before. I started talking to her a few weeks before, like seriously, like we were flirting with each other over text. As I was on my way to the first event that I ever won. So like she's kind of been there supporting it. She knew nothing about video games. She's just like, hey, you love to do it and I'll support you. And man, that's the secret recipe to success. Having that.
It's unreal. It's like having a whole other person helping you with everything you do is it just makes life way easier. And she's a partner, she's a partner. She's not like she's my girlfriend, but like she's a partner. She's a life partner. She's somebody who's here through all of it with me and making sure that I can get it all done. So it's nice to hear that you've got the same. And I agree. It is extremely important to be, you can do it on your own, but it's nothing like doing it with somebody supporting you.
No, we're giving intel right here. The secret to being a successul coach in esports is having a great partner.
Yeah, absolutely. Just go get a girlfriend.
Yeah, or whatever your choice is. Yeah. So shout out to her. Shout out to my wife Sarah. But keep going. Sorry, I interrupted you earlier because.
No, it's okay. Yeah, shout out to you for bringing me on here. I appreciate the opportunity to just sit and talk. And yeah, I haven't really had time to talk to another coach like this in esports either. So it's been a great experience for me, and I feel like I've learned a lot and gotten a lot of perspective, and I've really enjoyed our conversation. So thank you for bringing me on here.
Well, look, man, it's my pleasure. I'm so glad that you did this. I'm so glad I got to start off this season of the podcast with you. So I'm just thrilled, man. This has been enlightening for me. So thank you so much. Guys, this has been another episode of the Ashcast with John, aka Virge. You can check out all of his stuff down in the description. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you back for the next episode.